Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest John Murphy, and he's here today to share with us his book, Beyond Doubt: 4 Steps to Inner Peace. Now, John is the founder and CEO of Venture Management Consultants, a firm specializing in creating lean, high-performance work environments. John credits his success in business and life to A Course in Miracles. First learning and studying this practice in 2008, John quadrupled his business in growth and prosperity. Today, John works with individuals to teach them the incredible benefits the lessons of A Course in Miracles has to offer. So let's welcome to the show, John Murphy.
Thanks, Marianne. It's great being back.
Hey, it's so great to have you back and to talk about this book. I think this is something that everyone needs right now.
Yeah, this is a good time for inner peace.
Yeah. Well, most of us are stuck with 4 walls that we're staring at. Inner peace would be a good thing, right?
Exactly. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for people to learn practical ways to find more peace in their lives. And that's really what this book is all about. We have a tendency sometimes as human beings to think that I'll be at peace when the rest of the world is at peace, which is pretty much never. So this is really about how do I find that state of grace, irregardless of the circumstances that I'm in, whether it's a hurricane or a virus or I just lost my job, or I'm in a lousy relationship, or I don't have a relationship, or whatever, life throws at us. How do we get into that zone, so to speak, that state of grace? And it's all about mindfulness. It's all about minding our mind.
I love that you shared that with us. And for our listeners that are just joining us today, I know you were here talking with us last time in regards to your other book, The Miracle-Minded Manager, which is another very powerful read. With Beyond Doubt, I have to ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
Wow, that's a big question, Marianne, and I hope you're ready for the answer, because
I am.
Here's what happened. Yeah, here's what happened. I'd been writing business leadership books and team building books and customer service books and things like that for many years. And in the year 2000, I was halfway through writing a book, when my father got deathly ill and 11 months later passed. And I stopped writing and never went back to that book. And for 9 years, I never wrote. I just continued my consulting work and my speaking engagements, things like that. And I was actually working on a project over in France, right outside Lyon, France. And on a Saturday morning, I got up and I was essentially commanded to write again. There was just this presence, if you will, in my room, and it said, it's time to write again. And I said, no, I don't know what to write about, and I don't want to start something I can't finish, because I did that before. And I'm super busy right now, and so no, whatever, I don't know if it was my father's soul or what, or who it was, but I was very resistant. And long story short, I gave in. It wouldn't leave me alone, and so I opened up my laptop, and I said, you want me to write something? You tell me what to write. So Beyond Doubt was essentially channeled, and I go back now and read parts of it myself, and I can't believe I wrote that. It's a truly inspirational book. In fact, it won the Best Inspirational Book of the Year in 2010 by a big critic in Toronto, Canada, and was Editor's Choice Best Inspirational Book. And it's helped countless people, and it bridged me, if you will, from the business books that I was writing into more inspirational, even spiritual type books. Being in spirit, being spiritual is one and the same, and it's essentially fearless leadership, not worrying about everything that could go wrong, but being very mindful of the state of grace that always exists and is available to us. So then the real irony is I was actually working on a project years later for a big company up in Toronto, Canada, and we were recruiting a master instructor, a sensei, as they call them in Japan, to come in and replace me. I was there temporarily as a consultant, but somebody to come in full time and replace me. And we found this a sensei from Toyota. And when he saw me and met me, I was part of the interviewing process. He looked right at me and he said, "Are you John Murphy from Beyond Doubt, John Murphy?" And I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am." And he said, "Well, we're using that book at Toyota to train our senseis, our masters, our master leaders." And I was sort of blown away because I didn't realize that businesses were actually using that book for that reason. So, here I am thinking I wrote some spiritual book, so to speak, and it turns out it's not just in the spiritual section of the bookstore, but businesses are using it as well.
Well, a lot of times that, business spiritual aspect, if you really look at it, can't be separated anyway, because there's so much from one that influences the other. So I can see why they're using your book.
Well, it also, it gave me an idea. For years, I've been following and studying people like Greg Braden, who's taken science and spirituality and found some interesting blending, if you will. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Deepak Chopra, blending, medical knowledge with spiritual, essence. And I thought, wow, maybe there's an opportunity here for me to blend, to integrate business practices, business management, business leadership with spirituality, because you don't see a lot of that. And so I went on after Beyond Doubt. I wrote a book called Sage Leadership, Awakening the Spirit in Work. As you know, because we just talked about the book Miracle Minded Manager recently. That's a parable, a story about a man that transforms his life, and he was the president of a company. So, and I've adopted and practiced these teachings myself in my work. My company turns 32 years old next month, and I never would have made it without spirit, without inspiration, without passion, because you get knocked down a lot. And I wrote a book called Zentrepreneur, blending Zen practices, peace, inner peace, with entrepreneurship, with action. How do you take a good idea, good thinking, Zen thinking, and act on it and do something positive in the world? So Zentrepreneur, all of this, Beyond Doubt led me into a whole new genre, if you will, writing and teaching and speaking on miracle-minded manager and management and leading without doubt, leading without fear, leading without a lot of anxiety and worry. And what better time to read something like that than today, with all with this pandemic we're all facing. Yeah.
Because it seems like that's something that's, on the forefront of everyone's mind. We have fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, stress. We have people that have very good reasons to feel this way.
Well, right, and they're attaching their feelings to something external, and that's just common human nature. We attach. That's the ego thought system at work. We attach our happiness to another person, or to a job, or to a title, to an asset of some sort, and it becomes part of our identity. And then we live in perpetual fear, subconsciously, if not consciously, of losing whatever we've attached our happiness to. That person, that house, that car, that job, that income, that child, whatever. So, one of the Buddhist principles is called detachment. And detachment is one of the 4 steps in the book Beyond Doubt, which is the let go step. Letting go is critical to living in true joy and living in true grace, because letting go doesn't mean that we don't care about that person or that job or that house that we worked hard for. It doesn't mean we don't care about it. But detachment means we have not attached our feelings of joy and happiness to that external asset, which we actually have very little control over. We're happy no matter what, so to speak, because we're happy because we are alive and we have opportunity in front of us. And we have setbacks, but every setback is an opportunity to learn something, to grow, and again, to let go and let flow, which is the 4th step of the inner peace. So when I learned to do this, to let, and sometimes it takes some pain and some suffering to let go of something that you've really been clinging to. And but when you do that, you realize just how strong you actually are. When you lose a job, or you lose a loved one, or you lose a marriage, you lose a child, or you lose a limb. You lose something physical happens to you. You go through this period of pain and suffering and grief, and but on the other side of that is nirvana, is heaven. If you allow it, if you let go of the grief and the shame, then you experience this beautiful world beyond it. So it's, in a sense, heaven and hell are states of consciousness, they're states of mind. They're not future destinations that we go to if we're good or bad. Heaven is within us, and it's something we can tap into at any time by letting go of the barriers, the obstacles to feeling that sense of grace. And what I love about some of the scientists now these days, like the Bruce Liptons and the Greg Bradens and the HeartMath Institute in California has done brilliant work on this, is that all of these feelings are measurable. They are energetic frequencies that are measurable. One of my favorite teachers, if you will, is the late Dr. David Hawkins. And he had something called the Map of Consciousness, where he had, using a logarithmic scale, calibrated the various frequencies of feelings all the way from down at the very bottom. The lowest frequency was shame, and then guilt, and then grief, and then apathy, and then beyond apathy was essentially negativity, cynicism, grievances, things like that, followed by lust and attachment to which included greed and jealousy, and then anger was the next one up, and then after anger was pride. And all of those frequencies that I just mentioned are all ego frequencies. They all come from the ego box, or the ego thought system. Beyond the ego thought system, and this is what A Course in Miracles teaches, beyond the ego thought system is an entirely different box, if you will, an entirely different thought system, which is essentially faith-based versus fear-based. And I always say to people, you can't have fear, you can't be afraid and have faith at the same time. They're two different, mutually exclusive thought systems. So whenever you're feeling afraid or anxious or nervous, you are in the ego thought system, and you're feeling that way because you're projecting something negative into the future. Something's going to go wrong. I could screw up. I could hurt myself. I could get into trouble. You're projecting, and that's what triggers your hormonal system, and that's what triggers that feeling of anxiety, and your heart rate picks up, and your cortisol levels escalate, your stress hormones, your adrenaline, and all of a sudden you're sweating from the forehead, and you're thinking, see, I am right. I am nervous because this is scary. Well, you're nervous not because of the event that you're facing. You're nervous because of what you think of that event. You're nervous because of what's going on in your mind. So when you learn to be present, the secret is being in the now, and not projecting something negative into the future. When you're in the present, that's the let be phase of Beyond Doubt, with the very first step. So step 1 is let be. Step 2 is let go of all the obstacles. Step 3 is let see. And what we mean by that is that when we're present, when we're in the now, let be, and we're letting go of all of the emotional baggage that we've been carrying around, but then we see the world very differently. This person that used to annoy us doesn't annoy us anymore. In fact, we feel compassion. We feel empathy. And when we see that, then we get into the 4th step, which is let flow. And flow is the great Tao. Flow is health and well-being. It's positive source energy flowing through us. It's what athletes call the zone. When I get in the zone, I can't miss. It's a frequency. So when you get out of all those ego frequencies I mentioned, all the way from shame down up to pride. Pride is dualistic. It's us and them. It's win and lose. It's me and you. That's how the ego sees things. Everything is separate. When we get beyond that idea of separation, and we get into a spiritual sense of unity where we're all one, with what the Bible refers to as the atonement, at-one-ment. When we all recognize that we're connected energetically, that there is no individual thought. Everything is connected. Everything is entangled. Everything is part of a massive matrix, if you will, or web. When we start to recognize that and embrace it, we get into this zone of flow. And David Hawkins took those feelings, those emotions, which included things like appreciation, gratitude, love, bliss, joy, all the way up to enlightenment was the highest. Those frequencies, when you get into the zone, so to speak, and you feel, that's where true empowerment is. It's not somebody giving you power. It's you recognizing the power that exists to you, the spiritual power that always exists to you, and allowing it to flow through you. So it's like St. Francis said, make me an instrument of your peace. Well, make me a vehicle of your grace, of this power, of this, I'm a tool, essentially. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help my brothers and sisters, if you will. And when we allow that, it's miraculous. It's truly amazing.
So what do you think is one of the areas that people really get kind of hung up on in doing this 4 steps?
Well, the false identity, the idea that I am the ego, that I am this body, that life is linear. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's it. I'm born, I live, I die, and it's over. Not recognizing that everything is cyclical. Everything is, when you look at the planets, everything is moving in cycles. You look at the seasons, you look at day and night. Everything is cyclical, like perennial flowers coming back every year. When you start to recognize that our soul is eternal and our physical being is temporary, but we continue on after we pass, and we come back. It's everything is cyclical. That right there helps us not fear death the way the ego fears death. Because again, of course, in Miracles teaches us that there is no death. There's a shedding, if you will, like a skin, like a reptile or a snake sheds its skin. There's a shedding that takes place. But I've been working at consciousness conferences for years with people like Danny and Brinkley and Dr. Eben Alexander, both who've written New York Times best-selling books about their experience in the afterlife after they were clinically dead, and came back to tell the story. There's many cases like that. Duke University's done a lot of work with that, and it's fascinating to recognize that this idea of linear life, and that we are this, that we are what the ego thinks we are. We're not that. We're actually eternal. And again, that's probably the hardest. You asked about what's the hardest part. That's probably the hardest part for people to understand, especially if they're physically hurting in some way.
Yeah, or have something going on. A lot of times it's probably really difficult to kind of get out of that muck, to go, okay, well, this is just the situation that's presented itself, but I can actually move into a state where I can have some inner peace.
Well, yeah, and think of it this way, too. Every problem has a solution. Actually, every problem has multiple solutions. So there's no problem without a solution. There are 2 sides to the same coin. The problem that a lot of people experience in life is they don't think in terms of solutions. They think in terms of problems. So they dwell on the problem. I'm not feeling well. I'm sick. My mother isn't feeling well. She's sick. Now what? And by dwelling on the problem and not recognizing that there is a solution to that problem. So very positive, highly effective leaders focus on solutions. We're going to get through this. We're going to learn from it. We're going to move forward in a positive way. Everything happens for a reason, and everything actually happens for a positive reason. So once we recognize that every problem we think we have is for some positive reason, and we just have to find it and figure it out, then life becomes very interesting, and we rise to the challenge. But if all we do is put our head down and think about, oh, geez, this terrible. This is the worst. And oh my gosh, and you turn on the news and it's all negative, negative, negative. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all. And again, everything is measurable in terms of energetic frequencies. If we're negative and cynical and doubtful and anxious, with law of attraction, we're asking for more of that same misery. Misery loves company. Those are all frequencies. So no matter what is happening to us, when we dial into a positive, we're going to get through this frequency. We're going to deal with this. We're going to come out with new understanding, with new knowledge. And there are many positive things going on right now with this coronavirus. And you can start by just looking at the earth itself, the oceans cleaning up, the waterways in Venice, Italy being clear for the first time in decades. You could see the Himalayas from parts of India that had never seen them before, or not in, hundreds of years. The smog lifting in California and things like that. The earth is healing, and people are learning lessons. It's just like a massive I talk about a massive timeout. In sports we call timeout to regroup, to reset, to reboot, so to speak, to think about changes we need to make or adjustments we need to make. And parents use the timeout with children sometimes. So go sit on the stairs and you think about what you just did. You think about how you can get along better with your sister or your brother. That's a timeout. Well, we're getting a massive global timeout right now. And I advise people during this timeout to use the time wisely. Take advantage of the fact that we have this timeout, and you think about changes you can make in your life. What better time to learn to meditate? What better time to learn to be present? What better time to learn a new skill? There's just so many opportunities available to us, so that when we come out of this pandemic, we don't go back to life as usual. We go back to a better life, an improved life, with improved relationships, with more appreciation for things we took for granted, with more gratitude. Just even simple things like, stocked shelves at the grocery store, and the local pub that we can go and hang out with our friends at and dance and hug, those types of things. Yeah, huge opportunity for us to learn something valuable.
Well, it's really interesting because the way of life has really been redefined. And you talk about like clear skies in different parts of the country and around the world. And yeah, how true is that? I mean, we've been living in such a way that isn't working for us or the planet. So we are in this major timeout.
Right. And I think, when you study collective consciousness, and everything's vibrational, thoughts are vibrational, everything's energy. It's just energy and motion, emotion. And when you stop and think about all of the griping and complaining and negativity that the world has witnessed for years and years and years now, I'm at home. We've asked for more time with our children. We've asked for more, an opportunity to be more, present, if you will. So guess what? It's being delivered. And, the 4 steps to inner peace: let be, let go, let see, and let flow. This is a massive let be phase. We are at home. What better time to be present, to be aware, to be awake, to be meditative, to be contemplative, to be with our children, to be with one another, to be kind. This is a great be step, followed by let go. Let go of all the clutter weighing you down. Let go. I've talked to countless people about using this time to go through closets and get rid of stuff they haven't used in decades, to just declutter their lives. And I think I teach something called lean, which is getting rid of distractions and waste in our lives and our businesses, and getting into a state of flow and a state of grace and harmony and balance. Well, this is a great opportunity for people to apply lean to their personal lives, just letting go of all of the things weighing them down, the distractions, the clutter. And, we realize in a time like this that we don't need half of what we thought we needed. And we also learn that what we really do need are the things that sometimes we sacrifice for other things, like relationships. We need relationships. We need that interaction with one another, that unity, so to speak. So, look at some of the businesses taking off right now, like Zoom. And some of the online learning systems and such. People getting together, they can't physically do it necessarily, so they're checking in with one another, on video calls and things like that. So it is a new world. And I hope that we all come out of this letting go of a lot of the clutter that was weighing us down, and the distractions, and then we get into a greater state of flow. Let flow.
Yeah, it really seems that this period in time, we're really being kind of pushed to slow down, obviously. I mean, we're in our homes, but also to refocus on what's important. And maybe it's not working, the 12-hour days at work. And, really being disconnected from the people that, we're supposed to be spending most of our time with, like our family or loved ones. So it's really interesting when we look at this, just how it's refocusing what is important. And I think a lot of that will actually come out of this shift.
Exactly. And that's the let's see phase. We start to see things differently. We see priorities shifting. That 12-hour day, what did that really get? What does that really get me?
Yeah.
And what better time right now? A lot of people complain about exercise. I just don't seem to have the time to exercise. I work that 12-hour day, and then I'm just too tired, and I'm sitting all day. And what better time to exercise than right now? And even though the gyms are closed and the swimming pools are closed in many cases, and some of the facilities are closed, let me tell you something, Marianne. You can exercise with a pair of shoes, even without a pair of shoes. You can walk. You can run. You can do sit-ups and push-ups. In fact, I just did some myself earlier today. And you can find ways to to get healthy, to be active, and take an online dance class, take a Zumba class. Take a yoga. I do yoga online. I do Zumba online when I can't go to a gym or a club and do it. Put some good music on and just dance. That's what I mean by changing the dial. The dial is really the only control that we have in life. Do I dial into negativity and grief and sit around and feel sorry for people and worry about what's going on and dial into the news and hear it over and over and over again about people who are sick and dying? Or do I dial into some fun music and dance around? Do I dial into some fresh air and go for a walk? Do I dial into my pet cat or my pet dog and pay a little more attention to them and take the dog for a walk? Do I dial into my children who might be scattered across the country, but I can call them up and FaceTime them or things like that? What do you dial into? And, if you're really present and you're really interested in a positive, loving, graceful experience in life, dial into the positive, because joy loves company too. It isn't just misery that loves company. Joy loves company. So when we dial into joy, we find things to be uplifting. And nothing's easier than music, if you ask me. I mean, music is obviously a frequency of energy, and we like some music and we don't like other types of music. That's just because some frequencies align with our frequency and others don't. But find the frequency that moves you, and get off the couch and dance. Or do a stretch, do a yoga, or if you don't know how to do yoga, learn online. These days you can learn just about anything online.
Oh yes, they've got cooking classes. They've got all sorts of. You could take hikes online. They have everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice because there's a lot to be explored. It's not a very limiting state, even though it may seem like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got friends and that are they're learning all kinds of things. I'm learning how to do online teaching. Something, because I usually show up in person and I give seminars and workshops, and I love the interactive face-to-face classroom type environment, and I intend to continue that in the future. But for now, I've got clients that are saying, well, we can't travel, we can't do the class physically. Can we do it online? And it's not something I've been skilled at in the past, so I'm learning. I'm taking webinars. I'm giving webinars. Years ago, I read a book about how to write a book, and then I wrote 20 books. So now I'm taking an online course about teaching online courses.
Watch out, world, right?
Well, yeah. I know people who've taken tie-dye classes, learning tie-dye, people who've taken, just all kinds, dance classes, language classes. I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to, learn to speak French or learn to speak German or something like that. There's just, music classes, learn to play the piano or the guitar. You've got the power, we all do, to dial into something positive, something that moves us. Maybe it's music, maybe it's dance, maybe it's art. Pick up a paintbrush, and try your skill at painting. Something positive. The worst thing people can do is sit around and gripe. And one of the chapters in the book, Miracle Minded Manager, is no more grievances. That's the head of the chapter. No more grievances, no more griping, no more complaining. Try that for one day. I advise people, take one day and see how long you can go without complaining about anything, anyone or anything. No more grievances. It's a lot tougher than people think because habitually we've kind of been conditioned to, complain about stuff, the weather, the latest politics, the latest news, there's the number of people suffering from the virus. We find something because we're looking for it. We always find what we're looking for. Seek and ye shall find. We always find whatever we're looking for. And if we're in that negative mode, we're going to find all kinds of things that tell us we're right. Yep, you're right. The world's terrible. Look at it. Look at all the disasters. Look at all the things going wrong. We're always going to be given evidence that we're right because we find what we're looking for. So I think one of the most important shifts in life, shifts in perception, is that shift from the negative, ego, dualistic, fear-based thought system to the in spirit, the fearless, faith-based, love unconditionally. The ego defines love as something you fall in and out of, that love is temporary. Here today, I used to love this person, or I used to love that house or that car. That's not love. That's lust. Love, with a capital L, love is eternal. It's a field of energy. It's the field we came from, and it's the field we return to. It's the field we live in. It's this beautiful, graceful, sacred, agape love, where it's just simple. It's heaven. It's heaven within. That's real love. And the same is true with forgiveness. The ego describes forgiveness as I was right and you were wrong, but I forgive you. That is not forgiveness. That is condemnation. Okay, true forgiveness is there's no right and wrong. It's like the mystic Rumi said in one of his most famous quotes, beyond the ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I will meet you there. He's talking about heaven. He's talking about that field of grace beyond right and wrong, where we are truly forgiven. So when we get into that mode of unconditional love and true forgiveness, by the way, I happen to think dogs can teach us this quite well because you find a nice dog, and that dog is unconditionally loving and forgiving, no matter what. It's a wonderful image, if you will, of true love, just true unconditional, that sacred love. And when we dial into that, we are now attracting more of that into our lives. And that's when the miracles start to really just unfold in front of us. These beautiful synchronicities. It's just, I can't think of a better way to live on this planet than in that zone, in that field.
Do you think sometimes people have a hard time with just getting there because they're thinking, "Gosh, if I get to this place of inner peace, I'm having a hard time even thinking about inner peace. That might not even be something that's obtainable for me."
Sure. Well, that's doubt. And so the book Beyond Doubt aims at how do I get beyond doubt? That's the ego saying that's not, the ego is saying that's not possible. The ego doesn't understand peace. The ego doesn't understand joy and happiness because the ego is never satisfied. So the ego is saying, well, okay, yeah, you got a degree. When are you going to get a master's degree or PhD? Okay, yeah, You got to be vice president. When are you going to be president? You got a nice house, but you need a bigger house. You need a better car. You need this. You need that. You need this. You need that. The ego doesn't shut up. It's constantly saying you need more. The grass is greener somewhere else. And when we identify with that thought system, then we doubt that we can actually achieve peace on earth. We say rest in peace after people die. Why not live in peace? So that's a huge barrier, Marianne, is that monkey chatter, so to speak, is what the Buddhists call it, that monkey brain, where we've got these ideas circling through our minds that it's not possible, we're not worthy, we don't deserve it, we're not good enough. That's all ego chatter, when in fact, God makes no mistakes. We all are gifted people with a reason for being here, and our reason for being here is to give away the gifts we've been given. So if people are looking for their purpose in life, just all they have to do is think about, well, what am I blessed with? What gifts do I have? What talents do I have? And giving those away to the world for the betterment of the world is your purpose. It's that simple. So we think about, well, maybe I have a musical talent, maybe I have a writing talent, a creative, an imagination talent. I love Walt Disney's mission statement, which was to use my imagination to bring happiness to millions. So Walt Disney had an actual personal mission statement about giving his gifts to the world to make people happy. And, that's a pretty powerful statement because he clearly did it. So when we think about, we're not this sinner, we're not this bad person, thinking about all the things, the grief, the shame, the guilt, all this. That's the ego trying to tell us that, we're not worthy, we're not sacred, when in fact we are. So when we let go of that whole mindset, that whole baggage, the emotional baggage system, if you will, and we transcend the ego into this entirely new field of love and unity, atonement, and everyone we meet, we greet with a smile. Everywhere we go, we light up the world, so to speak. And yes, there's a lot of darkness right now, but that's just all the more reason we need enlightened people to bring a little positivity and spirit into the situation. So I, know that there is some really tough times. I lost a friend from high school just recently to the virus, and I haven't been tested, but I'm quite convinced I had it myself several months ago. I had all the symptoms, and I now had some of the post symptoms. So I don't know, but it's here. It's not something to be taken lightly. But the worst thing we can do is just get negative and gripe and complain and start pointing fingers. Oh, it's the Chinese fault, or it's the current government. It's the governor of whatever state is messing things up. That's all grievances, criticisms, judgments, and that shuts off the flow. That shuts off the great current, the Tao. And every time we complain or we resist that flow by condemning one another, we really only hurt ourselves. And in hurting ourselves, we hurt the world.
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. And we all know somebody right now that's either has the virus, has passed away from it, or is just being affected by it. And it's in our face. It's not something that we can run away from. Just, we have to deal with this. And it's interesting. Yeah. We're in this period of time where, more people are looking to see what positive impacts that they can make, even if it's something small like making face masks or being able to, make food for some of the healthcare workers. The people are looking forward to doing something that will make a positive impact.
Oh yeah, there's so many positive things we can do to help each other out, and it just takes a little imagination. So why not exercise our imagination? That's one of our gifts. Let's think of ways we can help each other out. Maybe we can buy groceries for somebody who can't do it. Like you said, make face masks, or just come up with things to help one another. There's no better time than right now to think about somebody who needs something and find a way to help them. And by the way, that right there, helping other people raises our energetic frequency, our vibration, so to speak, up significantly. When we give versus take, and we help one another, and we appreciate one another. Appreciation is one of the fastest ways to transcend the ego box, the ego thought system, because the ego doesn't understand appreciation. Okay, it's the ego that's greedy, it's the ego that's jealous, it's the ego that gets angry and agitated and doubtful and nervous. That's all the ego. When we realize, well, that's not me, that's the false me, that's this mindset that I've adopted since I was a child. It's human nature to adopt that mindset, so there's nothing wrong with me for adopting it. Everybody has that mindset. It's reptilian, it's survival oriented, It's human nature. But the thing is we're not just humans. We're not humans who have occasional spiritual experiences. We're actually spirits who are having an occasional human experience. It's just the other way around. So when we recognize that it's the ego that's essentially weighing us down, and we've adopted that as our identity, and we can shed that identity by being grateful. This is why it's so important, like prayer. The highest modality of prayer is the modality of feeling whatever it is we want or need as if it's here right now. So like when the indigenous tribes did a rain dance, they weren't out there asking for rain. They were out dancing as if it was raining. They were feeling the rain vibrationally, and it brought rains. So when we pray from a position of gratitude and appreciation and thanks, thank you for this day, thank you for the problems you've given me because I know there's solutions in disguise. Thank you for the relationships I have. Thank you for my physical health. And even if I'm not feeling well, thank you for the fact that I am healing. I feel myself healing. I feel this virus or whatever I might be experiencing leaving me, leaving my body, going somewhere else, disappearing. When we get into that modality of feeling grateful and appreciation for all the wonderful things that we have, that's a completely different form of prayer than giving God a menu. Hey, God, fix this person and help that person and do this and do that, and placing orders. That's a modality of lack, saying, because I don't feel well, help me feel well. And the universe, so to speak, responds, law of attraction responds like meets like. So, okay, you don't feel well? Okay, so you don't feel well. And you continue to not feel well. That's very different than using our imagination to feel well, to get past whatever it is we're suffering from, and visualizing and imagining ourselves joyful and happy beyond whatever problems we're facing. That's a gift that we all have. We have imagination. We have the capacity to envision and imagine. So envision is seeing it, but imagining it is beyond just envisioning it. Imagining it is feeling it. It's embracing it. It's laughing with it. And when we see ourselves in the future in this beautiful state of grace and joy and happiness and health and well-being, and we hold that in the mind's eye, we actually attract it into our lives. Abundance, prosperity, generosity, flow. And by giving, we receive. So by giving away, we receive more. That's the cyclical nature I spoke of earlier. So, by giving, we're receiving. So give away what you want, which is, it's counterintuitive. And the ego doesn't get that. The ego's like, well, if I give it away, then I won't have it. That's the dualistic way of looking at it. If I give it away, I won't have it. But we learn in A Course in Miracles and other spiritual teachings that the only thing that really matters is that which, when we give it away, we have more of it. So think about that for a minute. When I give away love, I have more love. When I give away forgiveness, I have more forgiveness, or I am more. I'm being forgiven. When I give away all kinds of. When I give away joy, I feel more joyful. Those are the things that really matter. And but the ego thinks of everything in terms of material. So that let go phase is letting go of these false attachments and embracing the things that matter most, like love and joy and forgiveness and peace. I mean, if we're not living in peace, we're really not living at all.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, because otherwise we're just like the hamster on the wheel, just running around,
Yeah, exactly. And where's it getting us? So, yeah, I think this is a perfect time for people to just take a time out, reevaluate life, reevaluate priorities, identify what's really important to you, to each person. What do I really want in life? And it's a lot simpler than sometimes we've made it. Well, I'll be happy when I have a boat. I'll be happy when I have when I retire or and I can play golf or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's no way to live.
Well, you hear that all the time. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy when. Okay, that's the ego talking. Why aren't you happy right now? Happiness is a choice. Choose it now. Don't choose it for later. And we know that we're in spirit when we feel joyful. And we know that we're in spirit when we feel loved and forgiven and free of guilt and shame and some of these things that weigh us down, grief, free of all of that. So we know we're aligned with our higher self, whatever you want to call that, God, source, energy, Holy Spirit, prana, chi, lots of names for it, but we know we're aligned and in flow with that grace, that holy grace, when we feel good. It's that simple. That's our indicator. Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham in the Law of Attraction, talks about the emotional guidance system. And the emotional guidance system is telling us whether we're aligned or not, whether we're in a mode of resistance, meaning we're not aligned with that sacred flow, or we are aligned with it. And then we experience joy and bliss and enthusiasm. We wake up in the morning and we're eager for the day. We're excited for the day. We feel passion and courage, and that's inspiration. That's being in spirit. But if we wake up and go, oh man, I wish I could sleep for another hour, or I got all this stuff I got to do today, and I just, oh boy, well, here we go again. That's not being aligned. So that's the thing that's most important, is to be be present, be mindful, mind your mind, pay attention to what you're paying attention to, let go of all the distractions, especially the ego distractions and the whole ego way of thinking, let it go, and see the world anew. See the joy, see the solutions, see the opportunity, the potential, and then get into that flow. And ride it, ride the wave, ride the great current, ride the Tao.
So how do miracles fit into all this? Because I know in your book you talk about miracles.
Well, I do, and A Course in Miracles, which is a channeling of Jesus back in the 70s, and it's helped millions and millions of people around the world. I've taken it 4 times. It's a 1-year course, 365 lessons, 1 mantra per day for a year. And it's a reprogramming of the mind and A Course in Miracles defines a miracle as a shift in perception. It's a correction of the mind, is how it's referred to. It's a correction of the mind, basically meaning it's a shift from the ego way of thinking and the false ideas of the ego to truth with a capital T, to a certainty, to knowledge is certainty. So we learn that the miracle is all about how we see things. And a miracle then is a shift, a correction of the mind, a shift in perception. So this person that used to really bother me, It wasn't the person that was bothering me. It was my thinking of that person that bothered me. It wasn't the traffic jam that was bothering me, getting me upset and angry and impatient. It was my thinking of the traffic jam that got me upset. And my projection that, I'm going to be late for my interview, or late for my meeting, or this, who screwed up? Who caused this crash? What an idiot. All those crazy things that people think. Who's to blame? That's the correction. The miracle is when we shift beyond condemnation and beyond finger pointing and beyond blame and beyond dualistic thinking. The politicians, the Democrats, the Republicans, the right, the wrong, all of the good and the bad, and who's worthy and who isn't. It's all of that dualistic thinking. It's a shift beyond all of that to we're all connected. We're all one. We're all part of a common field of energy. There are no independent thoughts. There are no independent actions. Everything has a cause and effect relationship on the whole. It's like a massive hologram, and we're all part of it. So everything we think, everything we do affects people beyond ourselves. So if we really want to help the world and we want to bring peace to the world, to quote Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. Be the peace. The world can't be at peace if you're not. So start with you. Find inner peace and live it and take it with you everywhere you go. And people will notice. People ask me all the time, doesn't anything bother you? How can you be so calm during this situation? I moved my primary residence to Florida 5 years ago, and I've been down there every September to visit my mother for her birthday. I'm up in Michigan now. But in 5 years, I've been in 3 hurricanes. And when they're evacuating the island, Palm Beach Island, where I live, and basically saying you're on your own if you don't leave, I stay. I've stayed for 3 hurricanes in 5 years to help elderly that can't move, that can't go anywhere. I stay there, and I go down on the beach when it's not blowing me off, away. And my people think I'm a little crazy, but I talk to the hurricane and ask it to calm down. And for 3 years out of, the 3 hurricanes that were coming right at West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island, they all shifted and went north and went out to sea. Now, I don't know that I had anything to do with that. I'm not taking any credit, but I'm saying that everything is energy. And when we let go of fear and let go of doubt and believe, this is why Jesus always said, do you believe? Because if you didn't believe, he couldn't heal you. Do you believe? And so that shift from doubt to belief, from fear to faith, that's what it takes for people to experience a true change in life and then begin to really witness the miracles that are always happening. And I always, when I sign a book to people, I like to sign it, embrace the miracle you are, because we are all miracles. When you think about our bodies, for example, with 50 to 60 trillion cells all making up this body, that's a lot of cells to get along with one another. And the more we can be at ease, the more we can avoid dis-ease.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. And my goodness, I mean, we could talk all day. I love having discussions with you in regards to life, your books, all this great stuff that we've been able to touch on today. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and your books and your upcoming online events and be part of your community?
Sure. Well, my website is johnjmurphy.org. And you can go there and see my body of work, see the books I've written, and there's a bunch of video clips. I have a YouTube channel under John J. Murphy, and it's I've got like 200 plus free little self-help videos people can watch. I'm on LinkedIn as John J. Murphy Mystic, and I'm on Facebook as John J. Murphy Author. So I'm on social media. No expert, but I'm getting a little better and better at it. But I post all kinds of videos. I'll post, when this interview goes live, we'll post it and share it. And, I do what I can, Marianne, to help people who are hurting, in one way or another, and just try to bring a little light into their lives.
Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing, John. It's making such a positive impact, and I'm so glad that we were able to spend this time together, and of course, to talk about your new book, Beyond Doubt. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Marianne. I'll be back anytime. You just let me know.
Well, thank you, John. It's always such an honor to spend time with you, and of course, to talk about your book, Beyond Doubt, 4 Steps to Inner Peace. Beyond Doubt's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers, and of course, you can get it on Kindle. If you'd like to connect with John and learn more about his work, you can at johnjmurphy.org for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.